Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Better Than a Pill. Today, I am so excited to have Dr. Lynn Carey on as a guest. And Lynn is a chiropractor, an author, and an entrepreneur who was able to heal herself after suffering with sickness and pain for many years. So, today, we're going to be talking about both her journey and the insight she gained and some keys to healing. So, welcome, Lynn, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Carrie. It's an honor to be here.
Well, I'm excited to get rolling here. So let's start off today by letting us know a little bit more about the struggles you went through that led to your self healing journey. Like, what was your illness, your pain, and so on?
So it started back probably when I was a teenager, when I was diagnosed with scoliosis at about 14 years old. And by 15, I ended up following what the medical doctor said. And I had spinal surgery where they put rods in my spine to straighten out my scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. I always look at the emotional component now, and I know my whole life as a child, I definitely was depressed and questioning that there had to be more to life than this. I just didn't like the whole regime of school, and I worked after school as a teenager. My family, all they did was work all the time, and I just thought life wasn't very happy. So I do believe that that kind of manifested in my spine going in two directions, me feeling that life could be one way, and yet I was being shown it was another. So I'm like pulled in two directions. But I had my surgery. They said it was a success. And then for the next 5 years, I was just in a lot of pain. I was sick all the time. My immune system was shot. And it wasn't until I discovered chiropractic in college, again, doing what I was told, going to get my degree so I could be successful in the world. And I was just lost. And someone showed me chiropractic. And it said the power that made the body heals the body. And I thought, why hasn't anybody told me this through all these years of me going through all my suffering? And so I just went. I just went to chiropractic school on that philosophy. I didn't even get adjusted. And my whole world changed when I got there. And it really, I feel like it was a divine order.
Well, now I know why you became a chiropractor. Absolutely. Wow. So, what did you find most helpful?
I think happened was that I got to view a different way of how the body works. Instead of saying you're labeled and you have this symptom or this disease and we're going to fix it with a pill or surgery, they were saying that the body has an inner wisdom that is always healing itself. It runs the whole body. Like, we couldn't do what the body does, even if we tried. I mean, if as we're sitting here, there's like millions of functions happening that we take for granted. Just that our hair is growing, our lungs are breathing, all these things are happening at the same time all the time. And we can't rationally, consciously do it even if we try. There's something bigger than us. And in the chiropractic world, they labeled it as innate intelligence or the inner wisdom, the life force of the body. It's an energy flow. And we also learned that symptoms are a way that the body is rebalancing itself or communicating with you on what's going on. And during that, I had to learn to become licensed as a chiropractor. We also kind of had to learn everything the medical world learns. So I learned that their perspective was totally different. They just wanted to understand everything, all that your symptoms are, so that they can label it with a disease, because that's how they can either drug it or cut it out. That was their whole thing. They really didn't look at the whole person. It was very compartmentalized. They didn't ask, why is the body doing these symptoms? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe we should let the body, let the symptoms run their course. So I saw the two perspectives, and I know the state that my body was in. What had been done to me was not working. And getting adjusted, it wasn't that it was a quick fix. So as I was learning this, I was also starting my body work. I was getting adjusted, but it wasn't a quick fix. It took time. And I realized the adjustments were really about getting me back in tune with my body, because I was so disconnected, especially after the trauma of the surgery. So I wasn't used to feeling my body. It was just painful. So it was about getting in tune energetically with my body. And during all of that, I lost my fear that I could not heal. That I lost the fear that, oh, there's something really wrong with me. Like, that went away. So I believe that's when my true healing happened. So it was a kind of a combination of all those things that really was the catalyst for my change.
Yes, that's so well said, Lynn. I so get that. I think that's where it has to start when we actually slow down enough and pay attention to our own bodies, right? And
Definitely.
it's, in your experience, you were able to lose the fear that you couldn't heal because you realized the power that your body actually had.
That's right. And no one ever told me that, So it
Yeah.
was like remembering, or even if we knew at one point, eventually it's kind of taken away from us, our power, because they're telling us all these outside things that we need to do to keep our health.
And so you can only, so just having to be so persistent to kind of get answers. I totally relate to that 100%. And, in that very, very similar path I took into seeking solutions. Here you are now seeking solutions in a new field. And so I'm just curious. So now you have, kind of made this journey. So you then you opened up a practice.
Yeah. So I was like ignorance on fire. I got out, I graduated at 23. I knew I was better. I understood how the body heals. I knew we heal ourselves. And I just wanted to get the message out to the world because I thought I can empower others. I was just excited. And I saw so many people were just so powerless, so unhappy. And I thought, I'm going to go out and change the world. And there was a couple of things that happened when I opened my practice. Number one, I realized a lot of people didn't want to hear what I had to say. They wanted the quick fix. They thought I was a little too radical. They just wanted to be, told what to do. I had a totally different message and I was shocked. I'm like, I even had like a friend of the family. She was a nurse. I knew she was going in for sciatic or back surgery because she had sciatica pain. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. I'm like, this just, she doesn't know. Let me tell her. And she's like, oh, no, I already have it scheduled. It's all booked up. I'm good. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like it like took my breath away that people were just good with going along. So I really had to adjust to that and realize people have to go on their own journey. And I kind of had to bridge the gap. And then I also, when I opened my practice, I realized no one taught me about business or money. And I had no idea what I was doing. I kind of had to teach myself. So I started reading and I started getting into, like, I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki about creating financial freedom. And I'm like, oh, this is something we don't learn in school. But the reason it's relevant to me opening my practice is because I saw the power of people becoming financially free, myself included, because I knew that the time freedom they would have, the choices they could make if they were time freedom. I saw people choosing to do things for their health only because their insurance paid it, or they couldn't get time off from work, or they couldn't afford it. And so I saw that as one of the key components: not enough time, not enough money, limited choices, not enough purpose and passion. I saw all those elements as keys to affecting people and how they healed. It was all part of the lifestyle. A lot of the stress of money or going to a job they hate would come out in chronic pain. So it was like all these things started connecting for me at once when I opened my practice.
Wow. That's pretty heavy there. Yeah, I mean that's a lot to kind of digest at one time, and you're right. I mean it's way bigger than just, the pain that we're experiencing. What's causing all of this pain? And it definitely makes sense to me that financial issues could be one of the biggest stressors people are experiencing and feeling stuck. And so then how does that manifest in the body, right? So, wow. So you continued in your practice, and so kind of explain to me what happened from there.
Yep. So I just saw that there was, like, to kind of backtrack, I saw that there was, like, people were missing the point of how their emotional and mental state was coming out physically. And I didn't realize how many people were not connecting those dots. Like, people would come and say, oh, I just, this pain just came out of nowhere. And I'm always like, it usually doesn't come out of nowhere. And I'm like, well, are you really stressed out in your life? Or what's going on? Anything unusual? Oh, no, everything's fine. And then they would tell me about their day. And I was stressed out listening to it. And I thought they've accepted this as normal. So the problem is if you're not processing the emotional and mental pain that you're going through, or that you think is normal, the overwhelm, right? The stress, that high level of stress that we just think is the natural way of life now. that's an it's energy. It's a lot of energy. So if you're not processing it, it comes out physically as pain or disease or chronic symptoms in your body. And that's what happens. And so that's why I find it's so important for people to really get in touch with those states within themselves in order for the healing to truly begin.
Right. And you saw this firsthand. It seems like you had made the correlation that most of the clients you were treating were coming to you and here they are saying that they're fine, but then diving deeper, you begin to see most people were living in a state of chronic stress.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And then I guess, looking at that, so how do you treat chronic stress? I mean, how did you go about that?
Well, I mean, there are basics, right? Basics to health. I guess my own personal situation was kind of extreme because my spine was not a normal spine. My posture wasn't a normal that someone could tell me, well, do this and it'll be, I could do the stretches. I'm not saying there's not a time and place for that. The adjustment, stretching, exercise, eating properly, all those things play a role. But when we get so lopsided or heavy, lopsided in the balance is out of whack where we become so focused on that, I think we're also missing the point. Mine mine went a little deeper because I didn't heal just from that way. Even like what straight like chiropractic rules and methods according to what their philosophies were to adjust my spine and the art of adjusting. It didn't really work for me because my spine was unique. So it's not that it didn't work, but I really didn't follow the main protocol. So it was like an outside of the thinking box. And I was highly stressed. I was highly depressed. I just thought it was normal because I was working so hard to be this good person, to be this successful person, to do what I was told that I thought that was normal, but it was killing me. So I really had to get into why am I carrying my body like this? And that's the mental state. When you're stressed, sometimes you tense up. Like people can understand that like a clenched fist, right? So when you learn to let go and relax, or you learn what is causing you to go like this, then you can start to change the perspective, change the thinking, and change everything that goes along with it. That's why I feel like that is really the root cause of so many things. And some people are lucky. I'll say in a sense that they come in, they have a pain, they get adjusted, it goes away. I never see them again. I don't know if they're lucky or not. Like, I don't know if they missed, did they miss the true healing or did they think I fixed them? I don't know. Was it just a moment in time? There's those scenarios too. But I feel like it's so much bigger than that. You don't want to get adjusted even as a chiropractor. I don't want someone to think that I'm just fixing them. It's more for me, it was always about getting in tune with the energy of your body. And I was hoping people would start to learn to do it for themselves in a bigger way.
Okay, a couple things with the scoliosis. So you actually have metal rods in your spine, right? And I see this a lot.
Well, I was lucky because I had them in for almost 2 years, and I believe my surgeon wanted to take them out, which is unusual because usually if people get the Harrington rod surgery, those rods are in there for life, which I can't imagine the state I would be in if I had metal rods in my spine still all this time, 30 years later. But that's the protocol. My surgeon took them out. I didn't want more surgery. I didn't know I was going to have to get them out. But I believe I don't remember exactly because I wasn't as aware then as I am now, but I think I was already having the pain. And I think that's the reason he wanted to take them out. I remember him saying, oh, well, you're really a thin person. You might feel the rods more than other people, which is kind of an odd statement, but it just always stuck with me. It's so odd. So I ended up having the rods taken out.
Okay.
So they still, even though they took the rods out, they still remove part of your spine to put them in. And by removing part of your spine, like spinal processes and part of your ilium bone, they actually put those bone shavings along your spine because they want to fuse everything so it doesn't move anymore. And to me, that's so outrageous because as a chiropractor, I realized the importance of having all the joints in your spine move properly because life is motion. And that's how the nervous system exits through the spine. That's how your brain talks to your body. That's how those electrical signals or the life force goes back and forth. That's the intent of the adjustment is to open up those spinal joints. So you have full nervous system, freedom, flow, immune function, all that. And they just disregard all that. So your spine doesn't move. And I just, it's really two ways of looking at the body. But when you really start understanding what the body does, it's just mind boggling that it still goes on. I know people who are still having that surgery
Oh
today.
yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. I see that. I actually have clients I've worked with the rods in their body. And so, yours being removed, were you, because I know we need to have movement in our spine. We need to maintain as much of it as we can, even with rods, right? As much as we can. That's what I believe. So were you, how's your spine today? Were you able to keep some of your motion? Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so luckily I was always able to get everything adjusted like a normal person. And once I cleared out of that chronic state, I don't have pain anymore. Like I'm healthier now than I have ever been. I'm not saying I don't have symptoms and things that come up, but it's usually when I let myself get run down or I'm stressed out about something. I mean, it could be a sore throat. It might not even be, the back pain's rare. If I have a back pain flare up, I know it's like deep seated issues, like childhood stuff being triggered. If
Wow.
But it clears up. But I don't have a pain. I don't have a fear like, oh, here it is. Like I used to be like that. Oh no, the pain's here because I was so afraid of it. Now it might give me a glimmer, but it clears right up.
Yeah. Yeah, because we talk about pain and myself included, is like there's so many ways to go about treating pain, right? And a lot of people can benefit from lifestyle changes, even in the forms of movement, and that's myself included. But going deeper, what you're saying is that there can be, that component, getting back to that stress. And you believe that what was going on with your spine, even the scoliosis, was that being caused by stress? And was that started at an early age?
Yes, I believe. So it's funny, years later in chiropractic, we're probably even out. I started learning about the emotional components. I don't know if you're familiar with Louise Hay, and you
Yes.
can hear your body, and she names all the symptoms and the negative belief behind it, and then she gives you a positive affirmation. I always find that right on. But I also remember learning in chiropractic school or just seminars after that, the emotional component with the scoliosis is especially the S-shaped curve, which is what my spine was. You're being pulled in two directions. Sometimes they say it's your parents have two different belief systems that you're hearing. I believe I had that, but I also believe on a deeper level, I'm like, there has to be more to life. I felt like this can't be all there is to life. And my mom would tell me, oh, school is the best years of your life. Wait till you're out, you're going to wish you were back in. And I thought, oh my God, it gets worse than this. And so she would, everything I said, she kind of said the opposite, like everything I believed or felt within, she she simply, like, you're crazy. It's not like that. So I believe that I was pulled in two directions. I knew there had to be something else, but yet society was showing me this is the way it is. Just the mainstream structure of society. So I know for sure because now I live my life completely outside the mainstream system. I kind of everything my mom, I mean, no disrespect to my mom, but everything she taught me, I had to unlearn. I mean,
Yeah.
I believe it was wrong. So I know I was definitely being pulled in two directions. And I think my spine manifested that. And, it's interesting. I always remember being in the hospital for my first surgery when they put the rods in. That's the time you're in there, like a longer time. And I remember laying there thinking, well, this is better than my life. And I really didn't have any problems. I was going to school. I was working after school. But I was just so unhappy. And I thought it's a respite because I was tired. I was tired from that busyness all the time, but you couldn't be tired. We had to keep going. You got to keep up with everything. There's no time to rest. That's kind of how I was raised. And so I felt like I was in that bed. I'm like, at least I get a respite from my life right now. So I know a lot of times we create even on a subconscious level, a way out. If we don't want to face the issue in our lives, it'll manifest itself. And sometimes disease isn't a socially acceptable way for people to get time off, to people to get sympathy from the people around them. It's kind of harsh to say, right? But that's what happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't stop until your body is screaming in pain at you.
So there is a lot of value. And I agree with you about that. And actually getting to know your own body, taking time to slow down and actually rest. And, hey, listen, even if it's in the form of resting and deep breathing and stretching, I find a lot of my insights while doing that. right? Getting to learn and know, your body is key. And so if we're constantly running and we're not slowing down at all, that's just not possible, right? It's just not possible to do. Um, so wow. So the,
Can I share what I remembered the most? And I always felt bad for people, especially if their low back would go out. Say, for instance, this was common, or the sciatic pain would occur. I felt compassion because I knew what they were going through at that moment, because it wasn't one of those things that usually was a quick fix, because there's a lot of emotion and tied to that. But I also know when you're in that much pain, the panic, like, oh my God, I still have to go to, like, I have to go to work. I have to take care of my kids, and I'm in crippling pain. I mean, I know when I was in my pain state, like, I remember just falling in the shower. My legs would give out on me. It was so bad. Sometimes I
yeah,
couldn't sit, stand, lay. I didn't know where to throw myself. There was no respite. So you can get to that place. But I also remember feeling like I can't keep up with my activities, and I wasn't even a parent yet. So when people would come into me with, they have jobs, they have bills to pay, they have kids, and they're in that state, I felt so much compassion. It's almost like a catch 22. You would tell them they need to take time off, but it was like, well, when's it going to go away? Because I need to get back to my life. And that angst, that circle right there, I got to get back, but I got to rest. The pain's too bad. Now I can't work. Do you know what I mean? You're caught in that, like a catch 22. That's a
right.
hard thing to break.
100%. I mean, 100%. So what do you recommend people do for their ultimate health and well-being? What do you recommend?
I think it's about, everybody's in a different place. The number one thing, if we're talking about pain, is I always tell people, don't be afraid of the pain. You can have the worst pain possible. It can get worse tomorrow, but guess what? It can get better too. Never be afraid of the pain. I've been through all cycles of pain. So if you can not be afraid, you're going to go through it easier. Allow the body to do what it has to do. Honor what you need to do in the moment. If you're not in pain, if you're facing some kind of challenge in life, whether it's health, you might want to find a natural practitioner or somebody who does alternative healings. You have to find what resonates with you. It's not that you're going to that person for them to fix you, but they're a great mentor or guide for you to get back in tune with your body. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
And then, you do the other aspect. If people, it's harder to face, whether it's relationship stuff, job stuff, finding purpose in life, financial. There are sometimes big topics to tackle, and even health included. I think a great place to really, something simple, is to start journaling. And you could do different kinds of journaling. I just think pen to paper is very therapeutic. So you can write your thoughts to become aware of what's on your mind, write out the problem, and let it go. Because then you'll maybe get divine guidance for it. Or you could start somewhere on another side. If you're not stuck in a problem, you could just start writing lists of gratitude, what you're grateful for each day. Simple things. Because the more you program your mind to look for your blessings in life, just that you can breathe today, or the sun came out, or you saw a cute puppy, those kind of things, you can write them down. And then all of a sudden you're retraining your brain to look for all those positives instead of looking for all the problems. And another list is look for things that you either appreciate or that make you happy. Like what inspired you today, or what gave you that little bit of joy, because some people don't know what they want, or they don't know what makes them happy. And I think that's an important component in healing, because I think we're here to live an inspired, purposeful life. And our inspired and purpose is our joy, but we've been so conditioned to struggle and suffer. So I think to really shift that, I think the journaling is very powerful, because it just opens you up to synchronicities in life and other guidance, whether it's a book falls on your lap, or the podcast shows up that's exactly what you needed to hear, or the friend calls who you need to tell, who has an answer for you, or a connection that you need, like that's the magic of life. That's the journey. I think the answers are always around us, but you have to be open to receive, and it opens you up to healing. All those things. It's all interconnected. It's not like a one-stop shop, or it's not like black and white either. And every person kind of has a different categories that they fall into, where to start, or what's more pressing for them. But these are like a general areas that you can start playing with to get started.
Yeah, no, that's great. I agree. And gratitude is so important. And you're right. I mean, there's so much power just in what you said about that. Writing it down, reframing our mind. And it's amazing the more you do that, you're building that muscle, right? So that's great. So if somebody wants to start on a self-healing journey, what are some tips that you could recommend based on your experience on how they start and where?
I guess we have to look at what is the most pressing issue for you. Are you just mentally stressed? You have to look at what are my daily activities? Do I have to be doing all these things every day? Like, what's the most pressing issues that I can take care of? Like, lighten your load a little bit and be okay with it. Um, it could be relationships, or you have to look at the people in your life. Are they really serving me? Or do I need to have a conversation with someone to get the right support that I need? It's not easy, but it could be simple as whether it's journaling, whether it's reading a book on the topic that you're looking for to get started. Finding, if it's a health issue, especially finding a natural practitioner that you resonate with, whether it's a chiropractor, physical therapist, or massage therapist, all these different, there could be so many. There's so many today, especially so much more than even when I got into practice, that it's a place to start because it's really important to get in tune with the energy of your body. And I think that's what it's about. And then you may evolve from that person and find another person, but I just don't want people to give their power away. The book, or nobody has the answers for you. They may have an answer at the moment, but it's really about becoming self-guided to find what you need to take care of yourself. And no one can get inside your head and clear out all those demons. You can do all these outside things to fix it, but it's really about getting to the beliefs that you carry, the thoughts that you think every day, maybe changing perspectives, finding more positive ways to think. So, it's all these things. And then the whole other aspect of money and time. I always tell people, I'm like, you want to really go on a path of self-discovery, become an entrepreneur, because that opens up a whole other realm of things to deal with, of what you go through as a human being in your evolution. So I just think there's so many avenues and so many tools, and you don't have to do everything at once. Kind of start where you feel is your pressing issue, and start small. Watch a video, podcast, or read a book, and then maybe reach out to someone and interview a lot of people. Like, even your doctor, your medical doctor, question them. Doesn't mean what they say is set in stone. It's one opinion. See what he or she has to say, and then see what the naturopath, or natural alternative doctor has to say. You may or may not like that person. You might have to go through 5 chiropractors to find your person. So, like, become in tune with what resonates with you. And resonates means that feeling like, yeah, this is my person, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing next. It's like that gut feeling. And I think if we learn to follow that a little bit more, we won't have to get into the extreme pain issues, unless you're bringing stuff up to heal, of course. But really, it's about learning to follow. I think we've all been so disconnected from our inner guidance.
Hmm. Yeah, I like how you put that. I think that it is so individualized. Like, there's no right or wrong. It's what resonates with you as an individual. And it is a journey, like you described. And even in my experience, I think we can take from all of our experiences, even with mainstream medical. I've found some value there that I've taken, right? And in the natural realm, there are things that you may or may not like, right? And you can put that in your toolbox. And listening to yourself and knowing that what you think matters and what you do matters, right? And that we're all here. I believe that to serve a purpose. And like your point about being an entrepreneur, I get that, because when we find what our purpose is, or what we're being called to do, that can create a whole nother path for us, but a whole nother journey, right? So to say. So yeah, that was very well said. And I know you've written a book, and I want you to tell us a little bit about your book, and so forth.
Yeah. So I was really, I had decided to get out of practice, which was a whole emotional journey for me, because I really felt guilt and obligation to keep my practice because I am a chiropractor. I'm supposed to play this role, but yet my soul was screaming inside that I wanted to expand myself and I really wanted to help people more with their lifestyle, um, with the healthy habits coaching, the business mentorship, because I really felt like that's where I was being drawn to be. And that's what I was working out for myself. It's almost like I kind of figured out the health side. It wasn't stretching or growing me anymore. So I got through that and I thought once I figure out the money stuff, then I'm gonna tell my story because I'm figuring out a lot of things. Like I thought I'd share my wisdom. But 3 years ago, when everything went crazy with the lockdowns, I decided that everybody's living in so much fear. I wanted to share positivity that we can heal ourselves. I really felt called to write my story ahead of what I thought. Like I didn't have everything figured out, but I knew we heal ourselves. And I wanted to share because I believe stories change people. Because sometimes you think, oh, if that person can do it, I can do it too. It gives you the courage, right? And kind of holds your hand because I've learned so much from reading books. So that's why I shared my journey to grace. It was about my healing story, physically, emotionally, mentally, and just how I structured my life. I realized I've structured my life, even raising my son, so outside the mainstream system. And so my book is My Journey to Grace. The subtitle is Shattering Mainstream Illusions to Creating a Desired Life. Because I really believe we're here to live our purpose and create a life that we truly desire, that makes us get up every morning and be on fire and happy and joyful and peaceful. It's not that you have to be excitedly happy all the time, but just a peace. I think we're supposed to live in that state. And so that's why I wrote that book.
That is great. And the title of the book is My Journey to Grace,
Mm-hmm.
Shattering Mainstream Illusions and Creating My Desired Life. Yeah,
Yep.
that is awesome. I am going to be ordering a copy, Lynn.
Thank you, Carrie.
And yeah, so here you are, you started on your journey, what you became a chiropractor and in your journey you've now written a book, which is awesome. And you're helping people in a different realm because you saw the desire for people to have financial freedom, right?
Yep.
And you have financial freedom. Yeah.
Working on it. The
Yes.
last few years screwed me up. And I'm honest, I'm like, I always tell people like the journey isn't always smooth from A to Z, but you learn so much as you go. And I do believe things happen to you for a reason, for what your soul needs to experience to become all you need to be, in
Right.
this life because it's bigger. It's not about the money. It's about true financial freedom and really changing all those limiting beliefs that we carry inside so we can be the abundant creator that we were born to be. And even like when you're doing a health thing, it's finding peace within your body. So you're not afraid when you have symptoms. You can allow it to do it. It's not like you're not going to ever have pain again, but you can be with it. And maybe it's not taking over your life anymore. You know how to navigate through it. It's just part of life. It's not like it takes over your life and becomes this big issue anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me for sure. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here listening today that could benefit from reading your book. And just listening today to your experience. I mean, and it's been powerful. I mean, yeah, I mean, we all are, in this journey together. We're going to have different things going on, and pain can mean different things for different people, right? I also want to circle back a little bit because I like what you said about it boils down to how you wanted to help people instill habits and lifestyle change. And I really think that's where it's at for everything in terms of change is that we have to take those little steps daily, right? If we want to make change and whatever change that we're trying to make. And so you found that to be true even in your practice as a chiropractor. Yeah. And that was that a missing link for you. And that's something that kind of drove you in this direction.
Yeah, and the basic like healthy habits every day and things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be such a struggle. I don't
Yeah.
think our when people go into what's the word I'm looking for? Like take weight loss, for example. It's become so obsessive. right? People are so obsessed with weight and how they eat. And I see that as any kind of obsessive diet is almost as detrimental as not caring too, because it's one extreme or the other. I like people to get into a natural balance. Like I think try to cut out as many toxins in your life as possible. Personal care products in your food, but you can't do it 100%. I don't want people to go being neurotic where I can never have this again. No, it's not that. But it's about cleaning it up as much as possible until your body's in a place where you can feel your natural cravings. And we get cravings sounds like a bad word, but really your body will tell you what it needs in the moment if you learn to listen to it. And also if you learn to stop eating when you're full, you don't stuff yourself anymore. It's a mindfulness that happens. And now I don't really think about it anymore. It's a natural way of life. It just self-regulates. I don't judge it either anymore. I think people get stuck in the judging. Oh, I'm judging what I'm eating right now. Enjoy your meal. Do the best you can. You try to eat clean as much as you can, but you can enjoy the hot fudge sundae too, because we're here to enjoy our life. So it's like finding that balance. And then even with the strict exercise routine, I always worked out, and then I was really big into yoga for a long time. And then I just evolved even out of that, where I don't give myself a routine anymore, but I am active, I know when I need to stretch. I like to go outside in nature and take walks. That's just my thing. And it happens naturally for me. Like I'm more active. And so, but I don't think about it, but it's part of my lifestyle. But it's not a stress like, oh, I have to get so many steps in today, or I got to get this workout. You know what I mean? It becomes drudgery. So people are killing their joy by having these strict routines. I love getting up in the morning and enjoying my cup of coffee and sitting and being there. I like my morning time. It's like my Zen time, And I'm not even strict with the meditation either. I did that for a while too. It's not that it's good or bad. It's just where I am right now. I know I just like to have quiet time and not, have important things to do today, but I don't like to be rushing around all day. I like to be in a flow. So I like to be in a flow state. And I'm very aware of my mood and my thoughts in the moment. I can tell where I'm going. And I want to honor, I want to honor if I'm angry. I want to honor if I'm sad. I allow it to come through and not judge it. But then I realized, I bounced back and it was just the other day. I was like, oh, I'm really happy. And I'm like, nothing even happened. I just feel like high vibes right now. And that's so cool. I always feel like then I'm on target because I'm allowing that natural state to just flow through without anything else triggering it.
That's great. Yeah. So we just all need to be free and natural and just flow.
But it's a
Uh,
process. I think, I'm
yeah.
not negating the routines that people do because there is a period of time where you need to retrain yourself to acclimate to that happiness and to find your happiness and your flow and what makes you peaceful. So it's kind of like a retraining. And I think if you're drawn to a routine or a habit and it makes you happy, like some people love to go to the gym and work out. They can feel that. Do it. Like that's the thing. Like you got to find what you're drawn to. But if you start to evolve out of it, don't make it bad. Maybe it's time to change and you have to find something else. I think we put here, we want to free ourselves, right? And then we put all these like harsh restrictions and judgments on ourselves to be this good person. And that's why people drop out of doing it. It's like the New Year's resolution or the diet. I'm going to do this month. And they're so hard on themselves. And then they mess up and then they walk away from it altogether. And then it's like this self-hating because I didn't do it perfectly or right. Do you know what I'm saying? I think we need to find a flow in moment to moment and what your body needs in the moment. And if you're putting all those, for me, I'm a very structured person. I realized when I would do a very structured routine, it almost was detrimental to me because I'm not the type of person, this is just me, who needs accountability because I'm the type who I can't sleep until it gets done. I'm kind of wired that way. So I had to learn to be easier on myself and allow and rest before I get the list done, and I have found it because I almost thought I'm going to drop the ball. Like, what if I don't get those things done? How can I rest if these aren't done? But now I have a natural rhythm. that doesn't put me in that. I actually know how to rest. And then I'm like, oh, I can get those things done no problem now. So that was a process for me. But
Right.
not honoring that caused a lot of pain. I know I carried a lot of pain because I was so like, I just have to get this done before I rest. Well, then my body was like screaming, So that was part of my healing journey.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's very interesting. And I know that on the flip side, there are a lot of people out there that can benefit from routine. And I think it can be very important to the healing process. Um,
Absolutely.
and even myself included, I have a routine and I work with a lot of people on instilling um, routines into their lives. But here's the thing, it's not what you think. It's like taking it to make it more of a movement is self care, right? So let's look at it like that. We do need to do things to help maintain our body. A lot of people just don't know what those things are, right? And so making those a routine and creating habits around that can be life changing for people,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Like even something as basic as like, people we're so sedentary now because we're on the computer. And
Yeah.
people realize it's important to get up and go take a walk outside or get that body moving. It's not normal to be sitting at a computer for 8 hours a day. So it is about retraining ourselves to become natural. And I think routines are key for that, bridging the gap there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like what you're saying too, there is also value in, if you are like how you describe yourself. I mean, to me that makes sense. You need to free yourself a little bit. And what works for you is going to be different than what works for Bob or Sally or or what have you. So, and that goes back to knowing yourself, finding yourself on your journey. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why all these things that we're talking about are all tools to get you back in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It leads you back to yourself. But you just have to have that perspective that the
Right.
answer, these people, not everybody has the answer outside of you, but they give you tools to see what works for you now. I mean, what works for me now, in a year from now, I may be totally different again. I don't know. But
Right.
honoring that evolution too.
Right. No, that makes sense. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Lynn. This has been great. And if you guys want to learn more about Dr. Carey's work, Dr. Carey, I'll be including all of her links in this description to her website. And you can also get her book on her website. So remember, we do new episodes every week on Wednesday. And thank you again, Lynn.
Thank you,
And I
Carrie,
look
for having me. This was amazing.
You're welcome. And I look forward to you all having me join me then. Take care.